Hi everyone, I'm Shy Sloth, and today I'll be sharing 8 of my favorite camp building hacks as requested by my awesome Discord members. My hope is to share some easy building tips to help you create a fun and unique camp. So let's get to it. So for this first tip, I'm going to show you how you can bring a wire through a wall to more easily power your base. So as you can see, you typically cannot take a wire through a wall, but there is a workaround for this. So I'm going to try to power my popcorn machine, and to do that I'm going to scrap a wall, and then I'm going to take the wire again and connect it to my generator. So now the wire is inside of the camp base, and I can connect my popcorn machine, and we have power. So now we cannot put another normal wall there, but it will let you place 2 half walls. So something to note though is that you do have to make sure the wire runs through the upper part of the top half wall, or else it won't work. And for some reason, this hack also does not work with any corner walls. So keep that in mind if you do give this one a try. But overall, it's fun and an easy way to power your base. For this next tip, I'm going to show you how to make it appear like objects are floating at your base. So you do need to use a roof for this to work. So either on top of your base, or like you can see here, I'm using roof as flooring as well. And what you'll do is you will change your roof to a slanted variant, and then you will place whatever object you are trying to have float on top of your slanted roof. And then after that, you will change the roof back to a flat roof. And now, as you can see, it looks like the asteroid is floating. And so this works specifically with larger objects. So it will work with things like this little ticket booth. And as you can see, we just set it down. We're gonna replace our roof to be flat. And now we have a floating ticket booth. And it can also work with some other miscellaneous structures, like this wine rack, for example. And now we have a floating wine rack. So yeah, it can just be kind of a fun little hack to make things float at your camp. Another way to make it look like your camp items are floating, and this is specifically for smaller camp items, is to set out your power armor, then go into build mode, and place whatever object you want to appear floating on top of your power armor. Exit your build mode and then go collect your power armor, and now it will look like that object is floating. So this works best, like I said, for smaller objects. It does not work for larger objects like what we just saw with the asteroid, for example. But it's pretty easy. Just set your power armor out, toss on whatever decor you want to float, and then just collect your power armor, and now you have some little floating things around your camp. This also works well for making it appear like you have different items just hanging on your wall that may not be in wall decor otherwise. So like, I like to put my plushies kind of all around my camp, and so again, you just place your power armor down, make sure whatever you're placing on top is lined up with the wall, and then collect your power armor, and now it looks like your plushies or whatever you're putting on the wall is attached to the wall, and it can just add kind of some fun flair around your camp. Continuing on with the floating theme, I'm going to show you an easy way to make a floating base. So start by placing a foundation, and then build up however many walls high you want the floor of your base to be. And then you're going to need to attach a roof, and make sure you choose a variant that has a slanted and flat roof, and then change your roof to be slanted, and then that will allow you to delete your walls and foundations, and then go back to your roof and replace it to be flat again. And now you can build out the pattern of your base. And something to note is that you can't attach walls to roofs, so just be mindful of that when you are building your floating base. And this is just an easy way that I have found to do it. It makes for a pretty quick build. Now it looks like our base is entirely floating. Add floor decor to it also. So just remember that you don't have walls though, so you might have to get a little creative that way. And you can also build up high enough so that you can have multiple levels and have a roof. One of the builds that I did recently was kind of like that. I'll link it here if you're interested. But yeah, it's just kind of a fun way to build a unique base. So next I'm going to show you just some easy ways you can build on water. As you can see, you can't typically place a foundation in water. So the easiest way is just start by placing a foundation on land, and then you can build out into the water from there in whatever pattern you want, just as long as you have at least one foundation that is attached to the land. So this is probably the easiest way to do it. And then there's another way if you don't want to have it look like your base is even attached to the land at all. And so to do that, start by making a blueprint of a foundation, stairs, and an upper floor, and then go out into the water wherever you want your camp to be placed, and it will let you set that blueprint in the water. And so now it's just the upper floor that is right above the water level. And then you can build out your base however large you would like it to be in whatever pattern, and it will look like your base is just floating on the water. So I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but these are just the two easiest ways that I have found that save the most time, and it looks like your base is floating, which adds a nice effect. So for this next tip, I'm going to show you how to build an octagon shaped base so that you can kind of get some different shapes in there besides the general square or rectangle. It is a bit tricky, but you start by placing foundations down in a plus sign. Next, you are going to line up another foundation in each of the corners of the plus sign. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just try to get it as straight as possible so that you're making a triangle in each of the corners. And I will say I did not come up with this hack. I saw a few different people do it and I thought it was really cool, so I wanted to share it here in case you haven't seen that. But you do have to have a bit of patience for this one. The final design is cool. So once you have all of your foundations lined up and placed, then we will move on to the next step. And so now you can kind of see this is what the pattern should look like when you're done. So after that, you are going to take each of the points of the plus sign, and once again, we are going to be lining each of these foundations up with the corners of our other foundations so that we can get our octagon shape. So like I said, it does take a bit of finesse, but it can be a fun little trick if you are wanting kind of a different shaped base than what is typical. So once those are all lined up, we are going to move our initial foundation, and then we are going to be adding walls all the way around. So you're going to keep moving your initial foundation so you can place walls on each of the other foundations until you have walls fully around each of the foundations. And then you can delete your initial foundation. And after that, we will need to go around and put more walls up. This is so that we can go back and place roofs on top of each of our walls. And this is if you want a roof on your base. If you don't want a roof, you don't have to do this step. So we'll finish adding our roofs on. And once they have all been placed, you'll need to go back and delete all of the walls that are on the outside. Make sure you keep the interior walls. And after that, we are going to blueprint everything that we have built so far. And this is so that something very funky and cool can happen. So after your blueprint is made, you'll need to name it. And now we will place the blueprint down, and you can just kind of see here what happens when we do that. Magically, it all comes together. So now we have this kind of funky shaped base that maybe you can do something fun with. So what I did is I just made a little place for my plushies to hang out. I placed a fireplace over the hole because you will have the holes on the floor and the roof. There's no way around that, unfortunately, but you can hide it with decoration. And it's a fun camp hack. So next I'm going to show you an easy trick to make your base be able to be taller. So typically if you place your camp box and then say you place a foundation, just start building up from whatever level your camp box is on, you're only going to be able to go about 5 walls high. But there is an easy workaround if you would like to have a taller base. So pick a cliff and place your camp at the very top of that cliff. Make sure it's placed on the edge. And then go below the cliff. So place your first foundation somewhere underneath of the cliff where your camp is placed. And then this will actually allow you to build your base a lot taller because the build system is essentially a cylinder based around wherever your camp box is located. And so now your cylinder is larger than if you were to just start building on the same level that your camp is placed. And as you can see, we can make our base much taller now. Just be mindful as you're building to make sure you save enough space for a roof or whatever you are designing for your camp. But yeah, that's a simple way to make your camp a little bit taller. So this next tip is how to merge camp items. So start by building a pressure plate, and you will need to scrap your first pressure plate and then build another one afterward for this to actually work. And then place whatever item you want merged. So I'm just going to use this shelf, and then I place some board games on top of the shelf. And while I'm in build mode, I'm just going to be moving the shelf back and forth on the pressure plate. When I do that, the board games are shifting down. So this is a tip that I know a lot of people know about, but just in case you hadn't heard of it, I wanted to share it again here since it can allow you to do some fun stuff with your build. It's nice for if you're trying to have a whole bunch of different things stacked on shelves, but you can also do some sillier things with it and, stack a whole bunch of random floor decor and things like that. Just remember that whatever you place on top initially, like I had the blast radius on top initially, it is going to end up on the bottom shelf or the bottom of whatever you are creating. So make sure that you have everything ordered correctly before you start merging it, because you will just have to scrap everything if you accidentally have something out of place and start over. So now, as you can see, I have the board games on the second part of the shelf now. And so the shelf is filling up nicely. And then you just place whatever you want on top and have our items merged now, because typically it won't let us build on shelves. And then you can go and move it as one unit wherever you would like to place it. So this last one is more of a tip than a hack, but use existing structures to build your base around. Like for this one, these bones were already here, and then I chose to build my base around it. And same with this Mothman structure, it was already in place, and then it gave me an idea to build a camp around. And you can do this with larger things too, like there are a lot of buildings or sheds or things like that you can actually incorporate into your base. And this saves on budget, and it can also give you some fun ideas for your base. And it requires less effort, which is nice. So keep that in mind when you are looking for locations to build your base. Well, I hope that provided you with some new camp ideas. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which of these tips was most helpful for your camp. Also, don't forget to join my Discord and check out my socials below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the wasteland.